Yo, what up all? Sakog here with another JWE and JPOG video. But before I get into that, let me announce a Dark Souls 3 cosplay tournament that I'm creating. If you guys are interested, comment below and I will be posting sign-up sheets in the near future. So, moving on from that, I'm here to talk about my experience with JWE and why I stopped playing it. In the background is JPOG footage, and I literally spent 5 minutes modding the build limits of each building, the maximum guest and dinosaur numbers, the maximum staffing, and I made sure that you can access all dig sites and dinosaurs on one island. I've changed nothing else that you see in the gameplay video. I've not done any graphical improvement mods, but once I do get a better computer, I will definitely be playing that type of stuff. So the vocal commentary is strictly just going to be about my experience with JWE and has nothing to do with what you see in the background of the video. So, on to the meat of the video. Sad to admit that I've installed Jurassic World Evolution, but before you hate on me for not liking the game, let me just say I spent about 100 hours on the game in total. I got the platinum for it, which involved a lot of time and effort to get it, so I did spend a lot of time on it. I modified every single one of my parks to be a consistent 5-star in any condition unless it's raining or whatever. I was able to fit all 48 dinosaurs on Isla Nublar successfully while be able to maintaining a 5-star park. And I've went back and rearranged and modified every park to basically make each island unique and having its own species roster. So I've also done battle royale, free-for-all types of things, and really I've done all that I can. I've exhausted the fun that I can find in this game. And I mean, if this game gets content updates, I'll definitely be able to go back and play it and then do more videos, but as the game stands right now, I really don't have too much interest to go back in it. So before going on, I'll admit that some of the points that I'm going to make are going to be similar to the comparison video between JWE and JPOG, as well as some of the things that I suggested for change. You'll see a lot of the similar points, but here I'm being less objective and more emotionally charged with how I respond to some of these experiences that I've had. In summary, if you don't want to watch the whole video for whatever reason and you just want an abridged version of what I'm about to say, I'm just going to be honest and say I stopped playing JW for 3 reasons. So the first reason is that on average I felt that JW had very few moments of genuine fun, and most of the experience that I really had really boiled down to irritation or dread for what I was playing. Reason number 2 would be because personally I feel that JPOG, despite being a far older game, did more things right than JWE. And reason number 3, any problems that I have with JPOG can simply be removed through simple mods that I make or any community mods that I have, while in JWE there's no mod support at all, and the community is forced to basically wait for official developer response and updates to improve the game, which personally, if you ask me, that's not really all that good for maintaining a fan base. I'll admit, the base form of JPOG is a very limiting game. I mean, I can give it a pass since basically this game was created during a time where there's limited hardware on PCs and consoles. However, with the new processing power and modding tech that we see today, JPOG has evolved into something far greater than it was originally. For me, the beauty of JPOG comes from the fact that you can make whatever you want out of this game through any means you see fit. I mean, you can mod the game, turn it into a realistic interpretation of Jurassic World or Jurassic Park or any other dinosaur movie. And I mean, if you want to mod it so the dinosaurs are different colorations or different models or just different behaviors, you can find mods for that. And I mean, you can also change the game mechanically. So, for example, I saw a mod that turned JPOG into a survival horror type of game, which actually was pretty fun to play. So, the point I'm trying to make here is basically that whatever you want to see in a game, you can do it with JPOG. And Jurassic World Evolution kind of suffers because you know, we're not really allowed to do it in that Frontier's vision is the only vision allowed for their game. So that really does take away from replayability in the sense that you can't really change the game to, you know, do different things to have fun with it in whatever way you can. Looking at the technical planks that I have for JWE, really, like, one of the biggest issues that I've had is that JWE, even after the Fallen Kingdom update, was crashing like every 20 to 30 minutes. I'm not very sure if anyone else has been having this problem, but the constant crashes have really been getting on my nerves. And even though my computer is a much more recent model, and, you know, usually like Windows 10 computers can't really run like JPOG that well, some reason JPOG rarely ever crashes on that computer, and it's pretty smooth. And overall, despite the fact that, you know, Jurassic World Evolution, or JWE, it has autosave features, it's really annoying to deal with game crashes and then resetting it. And especially this became a problem when I was getting the platinum in JWE. It was just crashing each time I was about to finish the last objective I need, and I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so annoying. That was just one of the biggest source of irritations that I had with JWE was that everything seemed to be constantly going wrong and always required you to be hands-on all the time, even when you're dealing with safe and optimal parks that you've built. Dinosaurs always seem to be dying, always seem to be getting sick or breaking out, the power's always out, buildings always need to be fixed, feeders always need to be resupplied, and sabotage always need to be dealt with. While in JPOG, parks reliably ran themselves, with literal player intervention happening in stable parks, even during the in-game phases. I mean, in JPOG, a self-sufficient park really only needs the player to recreate some of the dinosaurs that may have died. And even then, dinosaurs usually had lifespans of about 4 to 6 hours, so it was a very rare experience to even have to deal with that at that stage of the game. And as a result, for just how much time you had free, it was a basically much less stressful game. And you could really expand and spend more time enjoying the atmosphere of your park. So, in both of these games, one of the things you can do is you can drive around in cars or whatever vehicle and take pictures. But in JPOG, it was much easier to do this because you were just much more relaxed. You didn't have to deal with all this nonsensical stress. While in JWE, each time you went to try to enjoy your park and take a picture, like 12 things would go wrong they had to deal with, otherwise the park would just lose everything and you just go insane from the problems that are building up. Speaking of going insane, one of the biggest irritations that I had with JWE was that there was literally no warning system for anything that went wrong. On the other hand, with JPOG, you had plenty. So in JPOG, whenever a dinosaur went mad, you would be informed that a dinosaur was rampaging before it actually broke out and actually did any damage. And also, when it came to like dangerous weather conditions, JPOG would warn you about 10 minutes in advance when you check the weather tab of any dangerous things that could be happening. So you had time to prepare. And even though like tornadoes were very dangerous in JPOG as they could kill dinosaurs and guests and not just damage buildings, since you have that window of time to mentally brace yourself, I can deal with the fact that they're that damaging because I felt like I could actually do something before it actually occurred to mitigate the amount of damage it caused. But back to JWE, like literally, there's no warning system. The game doesn't tell you when a dinosaur is being upset and is attacking fences. The game only warns you once the dinosaur is already broken out. Like, the dinosaurs are constantly having their comfort levels go down unless you're constantly monitoring them, and the game doesn't tell you when their comfort's going down or when they're about to be upset and break out. The game also really only gives you like 10 seconds of warning when like severe storms or a tornado is about to hit your park, and you have no time to really prepare for that. And especially with a lot of like the high tier carnivores and such, they literally have such a short fuse that if you turn your back on them for a second, they're already going to go insane and already be trying to break out before you can even respond. Especially during storms where they just get upset for just existing because rain just bothers them. It's just really irritating that many times on the stormy islands, I just avoid building like these high tier carnivores because there's no way to stop them from trying to break out or even breaking out, since I mean they're just that strong and they're just that easily just irritated by life. Another major upsetting thing about JWE is that there are just too many build constraints. Like, there's terrain constraints, there's obstruction constraints, there's can't build outside, but just everything that prevents you from building the park you really want, because it's just not much space, there's not much stuff to do anything. While in JPOG, I mean, sure, there's limits on how you can build, like how many buildings you can have, but I mean, you can mod it to have essentially unlimited buildings, and those environmental tools in that game allow you to terraform entire, like, things. So, like, you can tire, like, the entire island in order to make it suitable for building. Also, like, maybe this is just a me thing, but buildings in Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, I mean, they practically build themselves. I mean, there could be, like, slight bumps or slight water on the, buildings don't care. They'll just place themselves down. They'll literally adjust the minor things in the environment that they need, and they should be fine. Really only need to modify the environment for, like, major, large-scale types of things, but other than that, buildings in JPOG just took care of themselves. JWE, you have to groom and pamper and just make that building feel really special in the place it belongs to, because otherwise it's not going to go. But, you know, if you're slightly out of the build limit, you just can't build on this part, it's just not fun dealing with buildings there, and the parks just feel very limited and samey. While in JPOG, I've built literally entire parks that are, like, completely different and had a different theme. Like in JPOG, I built, like, literally parks that only use safari vehicles, some only use blue tar. Just, I can make different things because I can use the islands, like, as I see fit, versus JWE. You're essentially forced to build in an optimal way in order to get a 5-star park, and it makes all the parks look samey, and there's no real differentiating between the parks because they all have the same feel, because there's, you know, you have to perform park building in an optimal method, and do anything else will basically not even allow you to beat the game. So, you know, it's kind of frustrating to have to deal with this over and over again, and even when the largest island in the game still feels very limited in structure. Speaking of buildings, let me tell you about how useless some of the buildings are in JWE. So, the Fossil Center, the Expedition Center, and the Research Lab, I mean, they're fine and dandy for the first island, I guess, because you kind of need them for that. But I don't understand why you need to waste time and space building and powering these types of structures on every single island. They take up all the limited space that you could be using for building other things. And the thing that, like, drives me insane is the fact that once you've unlocked everything, these buildings become perfectly useless. There's no purpose for them. I mean, sure, you can delete these buildings and then place whatever you want, but my thing is, I haven't really done that because I've always been holding out on when this game will be updated with new content, and I don't want to delete these buildings and have to rebuild them when I need to have them for more content to unlock. So I keep them there begrudgingly, but I want them gone. But that's the thing. In JPOG, there was no buildings like that. There's, like, literally, the only buildings you could build in your parks were ones that served a function in your park at all times. There was no beginning or end game viability of certain buildings. All buildings had a place, and they had a use in every aspect of the game. And for fossil hunting and DNA extraction and researching technology, there's no buildings for those. I mean, they just kind of happened. And also, let's talk about power for a second. Okay, power is one of the most obnoxious thing in JW. I mean, I just dislike the fact that everything runs out of power every 2 seconds, and also the fact that these pylons and substations and it all looks ugly. And the fact that you have to attach them all to attach all these buildings to a path. I don't know why you have to do that. It's just so obnoxious that everything needs a path, even though you would think that a power station would not need a path because it would just stand alone and just supply power. But I mean, this is why I like JPOG better, because in the sense that, you know, there's no electrical power that take away from the feel and look of your park. I mean, I'm just going to assume that JPOG buildings run on, like, geothermal energy as explained in the canon, so, I mean, they don't really need electricity in, like, giant poles that stick out of nowhere and take up space. So, I mean, hey, I like JPOG for that. But on building customization, though, I mean, it's kind of interesting with the system they have in JWE, how you have to place attachments to buildings to improve their capabilities, but I mean, it's kind of an annoying just thing to add because you always have to power these attachments, and it just costs a lot of money. While in JPOG, what I liked is that when you research new technologies and new capabilities, every single building that benefits from that research will have that research already in place. You don't have to place things or prioritize certain technologies. No, you just had everything on everything. And it makes it much less of a hassle to do stuff. But I mean, you know, there is some merit to customizing different buildings in JWE for that, but there's only a certain amount of buildings that can be customized, and it can be annoying to have to deal with all the other hassles for adding these attachments. While JWE is a game that focuses on dinosaurs and not the humans, I am pretty upset by the fact that in JWE there's really nothing you can do with the people. I mean, they're just basically just boring robots that don't have any interactions or any desire to look appealing. They're just kind of just there and walking around do nothing. It's just so annoying because, you know, you want to see what these people want and you want to see what they like, but you can't. However, in JPOG, you're able to interact with the people. You can see what they're thinking, you can see what they want. You can design and customize buildings to cater to their needs. You can just see how much money they have. You can see what dinosaurs they've seen. You can just see how safe they feel. You can see all these different stats in JPOG. And I don't know why in I mean, I guess there's just a lot of people that you can have in your parks in JWE versus JPOG, which has a much smaller amount of people. But the fact that you can really do so much with the people in JPOG and cater to all the different needs and see what they want and what they're thinking, I mean, that to me is more impressive because you feel the park sim in JPOG versus JWE, which is just like a glorified everything goes wrong type of game. Also, I forgot to mention in JWE, you can't rescue people at all. So if people run into a dinosaur enclosure or run off the path, there's no way of saving them. They're just good as dead. While in JPOG, you can use your helicopters to rescue people. If they accidentally run in a dinosaur enclosure or they run off the path, you can just rescue them. And in JPOG, you had to be careful because if visitors were left alone, they'll be killed by dinosaurs, they'll die of starvation, they'll die of sickness. And that's another thing in JPOG. When people die, there was a penalty. You can't just let people die all the time. You took heavy losses in JPOG, and you lost severe amounts of star rating for every single human death. In JWE, I mean, considering how the game is structured, it seems like it kind of, you know, encourages you to let dinosaurs break out because you only take minor hits in income and minor hits in star rating for tiny amounts of people dying. And even then, dinosaurs actually seem to benefit from killing people because dinosaurs have combat infamy, which kind of like sort of rates how powerful and impressive they are. And when dinosaurs kill people, their combat infamy goes up. So I mean, they're useful to let out and kill people, which is kind of weird and sort of morbid. I mean, I just feel like there should be a greater penalty for when people die in my parks. And I mean, sure, you can procure a lot of penalties, but only if like hundreds or thousands of people die, which I mean, I feel like there would be an issue in these types of parks if only a handful of people get hurt or killed. That's just me just saying that. Now we're on to one of my favorite, and I'm saying this very sarcastically, one of my favorite aspects of JWE, your 3 advisors. Man, these people are some of the most insane, out of touch people I've ever had the pleasure to meet with in a video. I mean, oh my goodness, I cannot stand the contract system in this game. I mean, simply put, all 3 of your advisors, for the most part, will ask very similar missions. And when one advisor asks you a mission that seems like everybody should agree in, the other 2 advisors get mad at you for accepting that mission, despite the fact that all of them should be in agreement for some of the things that are asked. Also, like, I'm really tired of sabotage. I mean, sabotage, you know, I understand why it's in the game from a canon perspective, but the fact that all these advisors are getting upset for things that they would want and then sabotaging you, and then demanding that you fix the problem it's just annoying. And it's just like you're dealing with little children that are throwing temper tantrums for really no reason. And I am so sick of the advisors constantly asking for ridiculous missions like, oh, you should protect your island from storms by building and wasting time making these buildings, when there are no storms present on these islands, and there's no way that that's going to be a... It's like they want me to build a response team for an imaginary, non-existent threat. And they get mad when I don't do it. I don't understand why that's the case. And then I'm also tired of my advisors asking me to, create like 5 billion Indoraptors that are like super soldier, like, you just can't control them, just put that on your part. Like, oh my goodness, for real. I am just tired of these crazy objectives, and you know what? I'm glad you can tranquilize these dangerous animals and then send them off to the black market or wherever I assume you're sending them, because I literally cannot deal with having like 20 of these creatures just run around my island destroying everything, because you guys know, if you guys were to leave these powerful super hybrids on the island alone, you know immediately they're gonna want the destruction and the utter chaos to, like, it's just, oh my goodness, it's not fun to deal with that. But while I'm being emotional about just how I respond to some of these problems I have in the game, like, let me just do an objective comparison between like the gains and losses that you can procure from dealing with contracts and missions that the advisors that you have throw your way. So let's start with gains. So with gains, you can get a small amount of money for doing these objectives. Potentially you can improve your park by adding bigger and better buildings and dinosaurs and such, and you can increase your reputation in one of the divisions by following these things. That's all the real things I can see as gains. And losses? So oftentimes when you do these objectives, the money you received is substantially much lower than the money you invested in it. So for example, I can be promised $300,000 for payment for creating a dinosaur that was worth $5 million. So I lose a crap ton of money, and I don't really get it back. And also, when you have those objectives that you have to place certain buildings, or when you need to release a new dinosaur or whatever, then I mean, you're just wasting time with that. I mean, because eventually you're probably going to just delete that building, or you're going to send the dinosaur away. And I mean, I guess sure you get some money back, but again, back to the first point, really it's not worth the time and effort to do all these things. Oh, and also you lower the reputation with the other two divisions, and that basically makes you more likely to get sabotaged. And even if that person asks you to do an objective, like I said, that all the other advisors should be in agreement with, they still get upset for some reason. And then I don't get it. And now, just comparing this with Staff and JPOG. So, Staff and JPOG were beautiful. They did their jobs to the best of their abilities, and they would commend you and just, reward you for making reasonable and responsible choices. And I mean, another thing is, in JPOG, your staff could get killed, and you can't mistreat them. And really, it can make you sad, because I mean, they could just be doing their jobs and they could just be attacked and killed by dinosaurs. While in JWE, I mean, I wish I could throw my advisors to the dinosaurs. I wish I could just watch them just get eviscerated, but I can't, because none of my staff can be killed by dinosaurs, despite, this being a dangerous dinosaur park. Now we're on to the dinosaurs. I'm just gonna say this, but in Jurassic World Evolution, the dinosaurs are absolute crybaby trash nonsense creatures. I am tired of dinosaurs that get rained on for like 5 seconds and then decide that the whole world must burn because they got wet. I am tired of dealing with the dinosaurs that decide that the whole park needs to be destroyed just because there's one less patch of grass or there's one less tree in their enclosure. I am tired of the dinosaurs who have the specific social and population requirement that will actively move away from the friends that they so-called need, or move into large groups that they want to avoid just so they have an excuse to want to break out and murder everyone around them. I'm tired of the dinosaurs that constantly want to fight everything, that end up getting themselves killed when they could have avoided it because they're just challenging everything in their near vicinity. I'm tired of the dinosaurs that all they want to do is just break out and kill people just because, I don't know, because they just want to. Like, sometimes the dinosaurs don't even have anything to make them upset that I'm aware of. Like, they seem to have everything in order, but I guess they just don't want to do it. And definitely the big, I'm just calling them long neck boys or sauropods, they are one of the worst animals I've ever seen in this game. They are just absolute, just the worst. Like, they're the biggest, saddest babies in this game, and I rarely ever build them in any of my parks because of how obnoxious they can be. And it really is just annoying that I literally have to take care and monitor all of these guys. Dinosaurs can't feed themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't, when they nibble on leaves, nibble on grass, they can't feed themselves. They need you to feed them. They need you to resupply their feeders all the time, just so they can get fed. And you can't run, you know, these Site Bs, or you can't run these free roaming parks because, I mean, the dinosaurs would just go upset, they'll get upset or whatever, and they're just gonna just die off, or they're just not gonna take care of themselves, and they don't live long enough to even, I don't know, be impressive to watch. And I don't like the fact that, you know, this game relies too heavily on, I would say, animations. Sure, the animations look really cool, and they're very impressive to watch for the first few times, but by the time you watch them for like the 20th time over and over again, the interactions between dinosaurs and humans and dinosaur and like, you just see the same animations over and over again, and you begin to see the fact that the animations need to be lined up, so you get this on-rails appearance for how everything happens. So a lot of times herbivores will just stand still and wait for a predator to come out and just thrash around, instead of running away or trying to protect themselves. Or people just trip all the time each time a carnivore comes up and attacks them, versus, I don't know, running away. See, this is the thing in JPOG. Like, in JPOG, dinosaurs had to catch other dinosaurs. Dinosaurs didn't stand in place and let themselves get killed. They ran away. They had to be overtaken and caught to be killed. Humans, sometimes humans did stand in fear and kind of let themselves get killed. But most of the times humans were running away, and they had to be chased by the raptors or the large carnivores. I mean, the thing is, you know, despite the fact that JPOG is pretty limited, the fact that when two large carnivores actually got into a fighting bout, they actually used multiple different attacks and multiple different strategies in order to win a duel, versus just, I don't know, just biting each other until one dies. There was variability in combat, as well as the fact that, especially with large carnivore combat, there's rarely ever deaths that occurred. It was mostly just a display of power and dominance over a territory. That was what it mostly was, versus just all-out brawls to the death. And in JPOG, dinosaurs took care of themselves. They would avoid unnecessary fights if they could. They would only attack other dinosaurs if hungry or were feeling stressed or whatever. They don't actively get themselves stressed. They will take care of themselves to the best of their ability before getting mad. In fact, they'll only get mad if they're like sick with a disease for a really long time that has very like painful symptoms, or if they're like crammed in an enclosure where they can't get the resources because there's just too many bodies blocking their way. Like, JPOG was really hard to make dinosaurs mad, and it literally took a lot for you to get them to that state. But for the most part, they would take care of themselves, and they would just actively avoid stressful situations and put themselves in a position where they would, you know, secure their survival. It's fun watching the dinosaurs in JPOG roam around and do things because, for the most part, they behave, you know, pretty reasonably. When they're feeling, you know, their needs are not being met, they'll get mad. But I mean, otherwise, as long as they can meet their needs, and they'll only do it when they have to, they'll be good. So, I mean, hey, that's why I like JPOG in the dinosaur department, despite the fact that it has about half the dinosaurs of JWE. I just like watching the dinosaurs better in JPOG, just because of that. So, last but not least, I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a masochist over here who likes to be punished for making mistakes, but in JPOG, there was a lost state. Like, you can lose. There was a game over. Like, if you make too many wrong decisions and you put yourself too much in debt, and you just were a very terrible park manager, then your higher-ups would fire you. They would let you go. They would tell you that you were terrible at doing your job, and they would just not even let you have that park. In JWE, it's completely different. No matter how many thousands of people die in your parks, no matter how many breakouts, no matter how many times you're in debt, no matter anything that happens, nobody really cares. They kind of just let you have that park. And I think that's also another thing, is that in JWE, you know, there was the fact that you could just go to a previous island and just find like bones and like materials and just go to the other island and sell them. So there's never a game over state. It was just a, I don't know, just down state that you can always get back up. I mean, I guess sure some people don't like to get game overs, but I just like the fact that every one of my decisions have consequences in a game. I like feeling like when I make a choice, if it's a wrong or right choice, there's rewards or there's consequences or things to consider, versus just I can just do anything in this game. Like I can get so many people killed, I can do so many things wrong, but nothing really happens to me. There's no real consequences, no real things to worry about. So yeah, I mean, even though nowadays I'm really good at JPOG, and I think I've only seen the game over screen once when I first started playing, but you know, since I've gotten really good at the game, I don't see it. But you know, when you do start a new game and you're still building a park, these are still factors that you still have to consider. Like if a tornado runs over your park and then you become so much in debt early game, that can happen. These are still possibilities in JPOG. You still have to worry about things, and you still have to make the right choices in order to survive. And you know, to this day, that's why I still play JPOG, because it's still entertaining and it's still at its core a pretty solid game. And sure, base game is not all that good by itself, but once you take into account all the changes that you can do to it to make it a much more polished game, that's just it. It's just a much more polished game, much more fun game. And you know, I want to like JWE. Like I like the dinosaur animations, and I like the looks and like just the presentation of the game. But I really can't get behind a game where it's just, you know, it's just not very fun to me. It's just more of an irritation, if anything. Sure, I mean, if Frontier listens to some of the suggestions that I or other people have made, and they just, you know, kind of take a look at it and say, you know, we need to change or add certain things, if they're willing to do that, then sure, I'll re-download the game and play it again. But in the current state that the game is in, I don't feel the desire to play. I don't feel the desire to go back and just do things. So yeah, here's for hoping that Frontier can improve the game. And so thanks for getting through the video. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification, and see you guys later.